is by going ahead and learning. So a person learns halacha, a person goes ahead and, a person goes ahead and learns musar, right? So remember again, the study of musar, what we're doing now, the study of musar sensitizes a person to certain things. So meaning what Ramchal is pointing out is that a lot of times when we end up transgressing, especially again when speaking about the tentacles or appendages of sin, it's either because, it's a lot of times it's because I don't know, I don't have knowledge, so learn halacha, or even if I have knowledge, I might not have a sensitivity. That's where musar comes in. You see, I will say, people sometimes don't like the word musar, because musar often is understood as rebuke, right? And rebuke means I did something wrong, and someone's going to yell at me that I did something wrong. So no one really enjoys that process very much. Musar doesn't mean to rebuke. Musar means to instruct. That many times in life we just don't have the right sensitivities in terms of how we're living or how we're acting. Divrei musar give us those sensitivities. Therefore, says Ramchal, step number one in acquiring the midah of nikius is learning the words of Chazal, learning halacha, learning musar. Kihine achar shekvar his ames eitzala adam chovas hanikius v'hatzorach bo. Because after it's become clear to a person the need, the obligation for nikius and the need for it. Achar shekvar hisik hazihirus v'hazarizus b'mashin is asik b'darchi kiniyasam v'israchik mimafsidehem. And remember again, after a person has become proficient in the areas of zihirus and zarizus, which we discussed earlier in the Sefer, hine lo yisharu lo ata ikuvim liknos hanikios ela yedias hadiktuk asher b'mitzvos. So as the Ramchal also adds it over here as follows. If a person goes ahead and has been following the order that we have been espousing in this Sefer so far, remember again, this is only, interestingly enough, we're only up to the third shar. So remember again, so far we've learned about zihirus, which means the need to live life with awareness. Remember again, the tov ha'amiti, the ra ha'amiti, what's good, what's bad, what am I doing, where am I going? Zrizos, which means the need to go ahead and act with alacrity, because there's a recognition that if I don't take decisive action quickly, somehow things just end up not happening. So the Ramchal posits, once I've acquired these midos, so the only thing standing between me and nikios is often knowledge. Whether that's knowledge of halacha, so I should know what I can do, what I can't do, or the knowledge of musar, which sensitizes me ultimately again to leading a better kind of life. He goes on, V'gam lefi al alkein hine tzarich lo behechrich yedias ha'halachas al buriyam la'da'as anfi ha'mitzvos ad heichim he'magiyim. So I have to learn halacha. I have to say, how could I avoid sin? How could I avoid negative activity if I don't know what is negative? How can I do that? He goes on, he says, and often again, that's also because sometimes, especially with details, people forget. So interestingly enough, the way the Ramchal understands that we come to the midah of nikius is by learning the words of Chazal. Which words specifically? Halacha and musar. And often this halacha requires a review because we're talking about kind of minute details that a lot of times are just overlooked. So a person has to learn and a person has to review. So we'll say that's step number one. Step number two, b'inyan hamidos. When it comes ultimately again to a person's midos, muchrachos lo kriyas ma'amari hamusar, page kuflam zayin, kuflam chesar, lakamonim o lachronim. Ki pamim rabos achfilu achar sheyikba adam ba'atzmo lios min hamedaktikim anikim efshar lo sheyesham bepratim mipnei shelo higia yidiasa b'hem ki ein adam nolad chacham v'efshar lo ladas es hakol. I will say, what a profound statement. So remember again, the midah of nikios doesn't just go ahead and dictate behaviors, but the midah of nikios also goes ahead and covers midos. That again, perfecting my character traits. And I will say, a lot of times, it's easier to correct behaviors than it is to correct character traits. So if I have character traits, even small aspects of my character or persona, they're in a state of disarray. It's the same model. I have to learn musar. I have to learn what it is that I'm doing wrong and what it is exactly that I need to correct. And not only that, I need constant review. Why? Because we forget things. Because we forget things, and because I forget things, therefore what? I end up lapsing in my behaviors and in my midos. I will say, look at this statement. Ki ein adam nolad chacham v'erf shel das hakol. No one is born a chacham, and no one knows everything. Let's say, what a statement. This is Ramchal saying this. See, up until now you thought it was just your wife telling you this, right? Now it's amazing, right? That Ramchal's telling me this also. Ach b'kriyas hadvarim yisora b'mashalo yada v'yisponu mashalo hiskel mitchila v'afilu b'mashalo yimsa b'sfarim atzmam. Listen to this. Something amazing happens when you learn. What happens when you learn? You begin to go ahead and understand things, right? You begin to understand things. You begin to see things in a different way, and you begin to understand things that are not even written in the sefer that you're learning. Why is this? This is incredible. Ki bihiyos sichlo neir al hadavar. When your intellect is awakened, then what? Holech umashkiachu al kolat stadin umamsi inyanim chadashim emikara emes. Rabbi say, we see this all the time. When a person is steeped in learning, you have a different outlook and perspective in life. And you see things in a different way beyond what it is that you're learning. Beyond what it is that you're learning. Somehow, again, when I'm learning, when I'm steeped in learning, I look at the world, I look at myself, and I understand things, ultimately, again, in a different way. I understand things in a dramatically different way. Right? But again, and I understand things that are not necessarily part of the subject material that I'm learning. Right? But somehow, again, through the learning, my intellect and my neshama becomes awakened, and I just see things differently. It's an incredible idea. Let's just finish the chapter. V'amnam mafsidi amida azos hinehem kol mafsidi hazihirus l'nosef alein chisar abikiyas b'yedei sadin al musar. So remember again, on the flip side, so remember what detracts from the midah of nikios. What is it that prevents a person from acquiring that midah of nikios? So it's the opposite. What prevents me from acquiring nikios? So are all the negative traits that we saw in zrizos and zihirus, and in addition to that is a lack of learning halacha and musar. So we'll say, if the learning of halacha and musar ultimately is what helps me to acquire the midah of nikios, not learning halacha and musar prevents me from acquiring the midah of nikios. So we'll say, so an incredible idea. We'll say, this is incredible. What did Chazal say? An Amma Aretz can never be pious. An Amma Aretz can't be pious. If I don't know halacha and I don't know musar, we'll say, again, we know this, we spend, Baruch Hashem, we're going to finish Shas shortly. You can finish Shas and still not necessarily have an operational understanding of your Yiddishkeit and how to avoid chait. Because Gemara, remember, is a different kind of limud, exceptionally important. It's the foundation. You can't be a fully functioning Jew without Gemara. Yet again, I can't just learn Gemara. I need to fill out the diet with other things as well. Because if I don't know halacha and if I don't learn musar daily, then what? I don't have nikiyos. And if you don't have nikiyos, then at the end of the day, it's only a matter of time until you make dramatic mistakes. Not even because you don't care, but simply because you don't know. He who does not know cannot do. Talmud Gadol, that's why Chazal say learning is so important. Shemevi lidei ma'isa. Specifically because learning brings you to action, and specifically here, the learning of halacha and the learning of musar ultimately bring one to a state of nikios. So stop here. Emeretz Hashem b'shatov mitzlachos. We begin Parak Yud Gimel, the midah of precious. Emeretz Hashem on Monday. Sorry.
Midos to Nidos. Sorry, going from Midos to Nidos.
Midos, yeah.
Did you see Mr. Kivitas? Did you see Mr. Kivitas?
Yeah.
He wasn't there. I waited for him for about 10 minutes. Maybe he overslept.
All right, then we'll say good morning. Let's begin. Thank you. Let us begin today's daf. Today's daf is Mem Daled. We have a lot to do today, actually. We are picking up on Mem Gimel Amud Beis. Mem Gimel Amud Beis, and we left off with Visharis Lamatavim Mashu. So we'll say we are, before the lines get wide, I don't really want to count up the lines from the bottom. It's a little depressing. We're going to do from 3 lines before the lines get wide. Last word on the line, Visharis. We'll do this last piece quickly, and then we're going to begin the Mishnah and the new Sugya. Our learning this morning is dedicated by our Talmud Torah sponsor to the month of Kislev, Josh and Becker Friedman, the Eli Nishmas Josh's father Yisrael Yehuda Ben Rav Chaim Rafael, on the occasion of his first yard site, Semya Malka Esterson, Le'iloi Nishmas, their parents, Yitzchak Lei Ben Aaron HaKohen, Sarachel Bas Baruch, and Hinda Bas Henech Ephraim. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshamas will have an Aliyah, and the family a Nechama. Also with that, let us begin. So also remember again, picking up mid-sugya a little bit from where we left off yesterday. Is it true that a sheretz is not metame b'mashu, v'hanantanan ha'ivarim ein lahen shir? So also we learned in the Mishnah that a varim, a limb, an intact limb, doesn't have a shear, which means we'll say even if a limb is intact and it's smaller than the particular shear, it still conveys tumah. Pachos mikizayis basra ames, upachos mikizayis basra nevela, upachos michadasha min hasheretz. So we'll see over here that lamaisa, if you have a limb of a sheretz that's even less than an adasha, it still conveys tumah. To which the Gemara says, "Shiny aver de kulim makom adasha kai." When you have an intact limb, that's different, right? An intact limb has a chashivos that transcends ultimately again normative shiurim. Daha ilu chaser purta aver mikamatamya. Because for example, if the aver itself was missing something, would the aver convey tumah? So of course the answer to that is no. So you see from here that what? That it's the aver itself, it's the identity of an aver that ultimately conveys tumah. Shechva zer de chaluka. So also remember again, yesterday we quoted the Brisa that said that Shechvas Zera is Chaluka. What does that mean? Ilema ben Yisrael Dinachrim. Say if you want to say that there's a distinction in the halachos of Shechvas Zera between Jews and non-Jews. Hachanami, so you can say the same thing by Shratzim. Shratzim also has Chilukim. Ika Achbar Diyam va'Achbar Diyabasha. Rabbi said there was something called the Achbar of the sea and Achbar of land. Achbar of land is a sheretz. Achbar of the sea was not. Ella bein katan legadol. Rather says the Gemara, the chilik in shechva zera is the shechva zera of a gadol ultimately conveys tumah. The shechva zera of a katan does not. So Rapapa says kitanoi. In reality, this entire thing is a machlokas. And so remember again, the subject matter that we're in the middle of discussing over here is trying to figure out the distinction, or whether or not there is a distinction. When it comes to Shechvas Zera, we know that Roa is b'mashahu, right? That ultimately, again, any amount of emission conveys tumah to the person who has the emission. The shaila is, what about Nogea? What about if somebody touches Shechvas Zera? So is that also a din in mashahu, or does that have a larger shear like Cha'adasha? To which the Gemara says, in reality, this is a machlokes tanoim. Minayin l'rabos nogea b'shechvas zera. From where do we know that if someone touches shechvas zera, ultimately they're tamei? Tamei lomar o ish upligi tanoi ba'alma. Di'ika dam. Rabos, listen to this. Here's what we know. We know that there's a connection between shechvas zera and sheretz. So the shaila is how, based on the psukim, the shaila is how much do we learn out from that comparison? So di'ika da amri don mine umina ve'ika da amri don mina ve'uki ba'asra. So also remember again, we've seen this principle before about a fundamental machlokis. When you learn out B from A, you learn out B from A. So do you learn out all of the qualities of B from A? That's don mine umina. Or do we say, no, I learn out a quality of B from A, but the rest of the qualities of B are understood from B itself. That's called don mina v'uki ba'asra. Learn out from it, but go ahead and establish it in its place. So you'll see how this plays out. L'man damar don mina umina. So we'll say, listen to this. Ma sheretz b'negia, ashech v'azera b'negia. Just like sheretz is tamei b'negia, right, with contact. So too shech v'azera is tamei b'negia as well. Umina, and I continue to learn out from sheretz and say what? Ma sheretz b'chadasha, ashech v'azera b'chadasha. Just like sheretz ultimately again is metayim b'chadasha, so too shech v'azera. Uleman Amar Don Mina Uki Basra. So we'll say so again. So ultimately, again, according to this approach, Shechva Zera will be Matami Biriya B'mashu, but B'negia B'cha'adasha. Other opinion says, Uleman Amar Don Mina Uki Basra, Mash Sheretz B'negia, just like Sheretz is the time B'negia, Af Shechvas Zera B'negia. So we'll say the comparison between Sheretz and Shechva Zera teaches me that just like Sheretz is in time B'negia, so too Shechva Zera. V'uki ba'asra, but establish it in its place. Mashich vas zera l'ra b'mashu after no gem mashu. So we'll say, here's what everyone agrees on. Everyone agrees that re'iyas shichvas zera is metame b'mashu. That everyone agrees with. The shaila is, what is the shear for negia? So we'll say, so therefore again, what do you see from here? This is fundamentally and wholly dependent on how you view the Shechvas Zera Sheretz connection. So the first opinion says that connection goes the whole way. To teach you again, just like the comparison teaches you that just like Sheretz is Matayim B'Negia, so too Shechvas Zera is Matayim B'Negia. So we'll say that limit also teaches you the shear for Negia. Just like the shear for Negia by Sheretz is Chadasha, so too the shear for Negia by Shechvas Zera will also be B'Negia. Second opinion says no. Says no, the comparison teaches me that Shechvas Zera is Matami B'Negia, but in terms of the shear for Shechvas Zera, I'm not going to learn that out from Sheretz. Rather, where am I going to learn that out from? I'm going to learn that out from Shechvas Zera itself. Just like Re'iyah is Matami B'Mashu, so too Negia will be Matami B'Mashu. Incredible. Amalei Rav Huna Rav Nasser Rav Papa. Mimai. How do you know that you're learning this? It was we saw in yesterday's daf. How do you know that I'm learning this out from the phrase of O ish? Dilma me O ish asher teisim and shechva zer kamar bilei. But maybe I'm learning out the concept ultimately again of negia from the O ish of shechva zer itself. Udichuli alma don mine umina. And everyone will ultimately agree with the principle don mine umina. V'shalinu l'tana. So I'll say, so they ultimately asked and they said this is a machlokes tanoim. Iga the Tani Kira Papa, the Iga the Tani Kira Funari Dab Nasa. So both say therefore again is machlokes tanaim ultimately where this halacha is learned out from. So I will say, so bottom line, halacha l'maisa, how do we paskin? So the Rambam paskins by Shechvas Zera that by Re'iyah it is a mashuhu. So any amount of Zera emission will make the man tamei. But b'negia, when it comes to contact with Shechvas Zera, the shear is adasha. The shear is the size of a lentil. Good. Says the Mishnah. We'll say, here we go. Tinokes bas yom echad mitame benida. So we've already actually seen this Mishnah before. We saw it quoted almost in its entirety the beginning of this week. So a tinokes, so a baby girl, 1 day old, has the capacity to become a tame benida. Bas yud yamim mitame beziva. Right? They will say at the age of 10 days, she can become a zava. So let's remember again, we saw those 10 days. That's because, remember again, the way zivos works is first 7 days of the girl's life, we assume any blood is dam nida. We saw this before. So really, if you think about it, the earliest she could become a zava is at 10 days old. How so? Because Lamais again, that would be 7 days of bleeding initially, or I should say, not 7 days of bleeding, 7 days of nida. Right? If she were to bleed, she would become a nida. That would trigger a 7-day period, and it only becomes a zava gidola when? After 3 days of bleeding post nida days. So therefore, the earliest she could become a zava would be at 10 days old. Tinok ben yom echad, a baby boy of 1 day old, mitame beziva. Right, so we'll say, so again, a boy could become a zav even from birth. Umitame b'negaim, and ultimately again he's subject to tumas negaim, which is tsaras. So apparently even a baby could contract tumas tsaras. Umitame b'tame meis. Now we'll say mitame b'tame meis in this context over here means as follows. Rashi points this out. What it means is that halacha l'maisa, if someone who's tame meis touches the baby could contract tumah. So the baby could be makabel tumah from another person who contracted tumas meis. We'll see again the novelty in these ideas. V'zokeik liyibum, and I will say again, he obligates in yibum, meaning what? Let's say again, Ruvain dies, and Ruvain has a 1 day old brother, right? The day that, let's say Ruvain dies at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. That morning, Ruvain's mother gives birth, so by the time Ruvain dies, he has a 1 day old brother. Ultimately, again, the existence of that 1 day old baby will make Ruvain's widow obligated in Yibum. So the Gemara says, "V'zokik liyubum upotra min hayibum." Similarly, again, if a man dies, and what? If you look at Rashi, potra min hayibum, im nolad la'achar misas aviv v'chaya sha achas umeis. Aval kol mashvit says, listen to this: if the baby was alive even for one moment before his father died, so the existence of that baby would what? Would go ahead and exempt his mother from yibum. Umachil b'truma, and I will say the existence of a one-day-old baby allows consumption of truma. I will say, so in this case over here, this is a Yisraelis who married a Kohen. So if a Yisraelis marries a Kohen, she's permitted to eat truma. What happens if her husband dies? If her husband dies and there's no children, she can no longer eat truma. But halacha l'maisa, if she had even a one-day-old baby, halacha l'maisa, that baby allows her to go ahead and eat truma. Uposel minat truma. And I will say the reverse is true as well. If a kohenes married a Yisrael, right? So remember, if her husband dies and they don't have children, she could go back to her father's house and eat truma. If, however, again, they had a baby together, once she has a baby, that baby forever precludes her from going ahead and eating truma. We're going to see an incredible novelty in that case as well. Top of Mem Daled Amud Aleph, v'nochel umanchil. And ultimately, again, such a baby, so we'll say literally translated, one-day-old baby has the ability to inherit and to bequeath. We'll see how that case plays out. V'hargo chayiv, if one kills a one-day-old baby, one is chayiv, right? That is a capital crime. That's shvichos damim. V'harihu la'aviv u'li'imo u'l'chol krovav ki chasan shalem. But you'll see the meaning of this strange phrase. And this one-day-old baby is to his father and his mother like a full-fledged chasan. We'll see what that means. Says the Gemara, minhani mili. So I'll say, so number one, from where do I know this? What are we talking about? How do I know that a baby, a girl, could become a niddah even from birth? So the Gemara says, the Tanur Abanan, Isha, Ainli Ella Isha. Because I will say, the Pasuk says by Niddah, Isha. I don't know that applies. I will say, I assume to an adult woman. Basyom Echel Niddah Minayin. How do I know that it applies even to a baby that's one of the old Talmud V'Isha? So I will say, the Vav HaRibui, right? That Vav comes to add, even a baby is subject to Niddah. Basya, so says, so just to understand, like Metzias, how does this play out? So I will say, what this is talking about over here is that ultimately, again, if the girl is bleeding and we don't know what to attribute that dam to, so ultimately, again, you'll treat it like dam nida. That's what we're saying over here. Bas yud yam leziva. So at 10 days old, she can become a zava. Minahani, we don't know this one. Tanur Abanan, Isha, Ainli Ella Isha. So I will say, I only know Isha means an adult woman. Adult woman is subject to the laws of zav. Bas yud yamim leziva minayin. How do I know that it applies to a 10-day-old baby? Talmud Lomar v'isha. So we'll say same thing. The vav always comes to add in something additional. So we'll say, so just to be clear, the vav lav dafka is teaching me about 10 days, right? The 10-day model is the fact that, remember, again, we assume that first blood is nida, only that which comes after it is zava. That's how you get to the 10 days. What it's talking about over here is that even a baby. So the vav adds in even the baby. So I'll say now we come to the baby who's 1 day old. So from where do I know this? So let's remember again, the first case over here was tinok ben yom echad mitame beziva. That a 1-day-old baby could become a zav. Where do I know this from? Tanur Abanan. Ish. Ish. Why does it have to say ish? You could just say ish. L'rabos ben yom echad tame beziva. To Rabbi Yehuda says, the extra ish comes to teaching that what? That even a baby has the ability to become tame as a zav. Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch Omer, Einot tzarech. So Rabbi Shmuel ben Rabbi Yochanan ben Baruch says, no, I don't like this Rasha. Harehu Omer v'hazav es zovo. L'zachar u'lenekeva. So both say, so the pasuk talks about the zav l'zovo, right? The zav and his emission, l'zachar u'lenekeva. Now both say, remember again, zachar and nekeva is a very interesting wording, because what could the pasuk have said? Ish o isha. Zachar or nekeva is a much thank you, a much broader category. What does it come to include? To which the Gemara says, L'zachar kolshu ben gadol ben katan, l'nekeva kolshihi ben gedola ben kitana. So we'll say zachar and nekeva comes to include male and female of any age. So both say, so I want to just point out, they're agreeing, right? There's not a disagreement on the halacha, right? The halacha, everyone agrees that what? The halacha l'maisa, the halachas of zivus will ultimately apply even to a baby boy and even to a baby girl. So im kain Ma Talmud Lomar ish ish. So ultimately, again, says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan ben Beroka, what do you do with the drasha of ish ish? He says it's not a drasha. Dibra Torah kilasha b'nei adam. We'll say sometimes the Torah just employs the wording the way people speak. So ish ish was just a form of speech, but not meant to be a drasha. Good. Umitami b'negoim. We'll say next, a baby could contract tumas negoim. So where do we know this from? Dichsiv adam kieh ba'ar bisaro. Because we'll say the pasuk says adam. Again, remember, adam is also a very nondescript term. So the Gemara darshins, what does adam mean? Adam koshu, any adam. Any Adam, anyone who's considered to be Adam, which includes who? Which includes even the babies. Umitame bitame meis, and ultimately, again, the baby could contract tumas meis. So we'll say, what does that refer to? So the Gemara says, umitame to us, dichsev va'al hanafashos asher hayusham. Because we'll say the pasuk says, the pasuk is, this is talking about by the purification of paraduma, va'al hanafashos asher hayusham. All of the souls that were there, to which the Gemara says, I'm sorry, nefesh koldu. So we'll say same idea. Nefesh also is a general, broad word coming to include babies as well. V'zokek liyibum, and I will say, remember again, the presence of a one-day-old baby will obligate, or really a one-day-old brother of the deceased husband, will obligate the wife in yibum. Where do we know this from? Dichsiv ki yeshvu achim yachtov. But the pasuk says when brothers literally again inhabit the world together, they're here together. Achim shahaya lahem yeshiva achas ba'olam. So we'll say what it means is, when does a brother obligate the widow in yibum? When the two brothers were alive at the same time. So we'll say this is an important halacha. So for example, if Reuven were to die and his brother Shimon were born the next day, there is no obligation of yibum in that circumstance. Yibum only comes about if the surviving brother was alive before the deceased brother passed away. The chiddush is, even if the surviving brother is what? Only a day old. Right? I mean, the Havamino is, I would have thought maybe that the surviving brother has to at least be a bit older, right? Maybe fit for marriage, or if not fit for marriage, at least, I will say, I just want to point out that the major issue over here about a baby 1 day old is a lack of established viability, right? That's what's driving this, and we're going to see this is why the end of the Mishnah, right, is very interesting about treating the baby like a full-fledged living entity. But that's what's driving this. Even though at 1 day old there's not necessarily an established viability, nevertheless that's how we're treating this baby. So you're going to go ahead and say, if the baby's 1 day old, this woman is subject ultimately again to yibum, which is a dramatic idea. Upotem and yibum, and I will say similarly again, if a woman has a 1 day old baby at the time that her husband dies, that baby also exempts her from yibum. Because the pasuk says, "Ubein ein lo," because the pasuk says the deceased husband doesn't have a son. I'm sorry, but "Ubein ein lo amrachmana v'ha islay," and he has a son. Umachil b'truma, and about say again, remember the case of the Israelis who married a Kohen, and now ultimately again Kohen dies, but leaves her with a 1 day old child. So Allah Chalamai, so the presence of that child has the ability to allow her to continue to eat truma, even though she's no longer married to the Kohen. Dichsiv v'yelid beiso hem yochlu belachmo. So karibei ya'achilu belachmo. So we'll say, because the pasuk says literally those who are born to the house of the Kohen yochlu belachmo, can eat of his bread, which we'll say means anyone who's a member of the Kohanic household is permitted to eat truma. To which the Gemara says karile ya'achilu belachmo. In other words, sometimes we'll say those members enable others to go ahead and eat truma. What's the case of others who enable others to eat truma? So again, that would be the case of the baby, right, who enables his mother, who is really Israelis, to continue to eat truma. Upo salminat truma, and remember again, this is a reverse case. A kohenes marries a Yisrael. They have a child. The Yisrael then dies. So remember again, I will say, if she didn't have a baby, let's say a Kohenes marries a Yisrael, her husband dies, she doesn't have a baby, what's the halacha? She goes back to her father's home, and she could once again enjoy truma. the presence of that baby prevents her from going back to her father's home. And she go back to her father's home. She just can't eat truma. So the pasuk says v'zera ein la, because the pasuk says she doesn't have offspring. Amar Rachmana v'ha isla. So the pasuk says when could she go back to her father's home and enjoy truma? That's ultimately again v'zera ein la. She doesn't have offspring, but she does have offspring in this case. So the Gemara says my irya zera. The Gemara says 1 second. In this case, you don't even need her to actually have offspring. It's enough that what? Afilu ubarnami. Rabbi said, interestingly enough, this halacha also applies even if what? Even if she's only pregnant. Rabbi say, interestingly enough, the halacha is that in this case where a kohenes married a Yisrael, right? And let's say the Yisrael dies, and she's pregnant, she also can't go back to her father's home and eat truma. So the Gemara is saying over here, why are you making it sound like it's only if she has a baby that she can't go back and eat truma? Even if she is pregnant, she can't go back and eat truma. To which the Gemara says, prat lem'uberes. So this is very interesting. When could she go back to her? We'll say the pasuk is Ubas kohen tia leish amona grusha v'zera in law. If a bas kohen marries a Yisrael and she gets divorced or she's widowed and she has no offspring, v'shava al beis avia kinu areha. She can go back to her father's home like when? Like when she was young. The Gemara Dashins about say when she was young comes to exclude a woman who's pregnant, right? Because if she's pregnant, she's not like she was when she was young. So the Gemara says, even if she's pregnant, halacha l'maisa, she can't go back to her father's home and eat truma. So why are you making it sound like that? This is a din, ultimately, again, in having baby. Well, I'll tell you why. Tzrichi, we need both drushes. Because of Rachmana v'zera inla, because the Gemara says, if the pasuk would have just said she can't go back to her father's home and eat truma, if she doesn't have offspring, Mishum demeikara chad gufa v'hashta trei gufe. Because we'll say before when she was young, she was quote unquote one body. Now she's two bodies. In other words, that reference to her and her child. That's why she can't go back. Aval hacha demeikara chad gufa v'hashta chad gufa imateichel. We're both saying in the case of pregnancy, where she left her father's home, she was one body, one entity. She goes back to her, and now even when she's pregnant, we'll say she's still one entity. This reflects the idea of ubar yerech imo, right? Ultimately, again, the fetus is an extension of the mother, right? The fetus is a body part of the mother. So Lamaisa, she's still chad guf, so maybe she should be able to go back and eat truma. Therefore, again, kasav rachmana kinu areha. Kinu areha teaches me that no halacha lamaisa, that ultimately, again, she can only go back to her father's home if she was the same way when she was young, i.e., not pregnant. Now that she's pregnant, she can't go back and eat truma. V'kasav rachmana kinu areha. And if the Torah would have just said kinu areha, mishum demeikara gufa srika v'hashta gufa malya. So you say when she was young, gufa srika means she was an empty body. Now she is what? Now gufa malya. She is a full body. That's why she can't go ahead and go back. Aval hacha demeikara gufa srika v'hashta gufa srika imatechel. Rabbi say when she has a baby, right? She left her father's home and she was quote unquote an empty body. Now she comes back, and in this state she is still an empty body, right? There's nothing else inside of her. Therefore, again, I might have thought she can eat truma. Therefore, tzricha. So therefore, I will say, amazingly enough, we have two different halachas over here. So when a kohenes marries a Yisrael, and so again, obviously when she's married to the Yisrael, she cannot go ahead and eat truma, right? What happens if her husband dies or she gets divorced? So then it depends. Now what we see is if she's pregnant or has a child, halacha l'maisa, she cannot go back to her father's home and eat truma. The Gemara showed us why I need both of those drushes. So cry atara. So I'll say now I've answered up the psukim. Ela masnisin ma'irya ben yom echad afilu ubernami. So we'll say now the question is on the Mishnah. So I don't understand if that's the case. Why does the Mishnah illustrate this principle with a 1-day-old baby? The better illustration of this principle would have been what? A fetus. right? Pregnancy, that would have been even a better illustration, because both say, the truth is, once you illustrate it in a case of pregnancy, then it's obvious if she has a one-day-old baby as well. Once you tell me that a kohenes who is pregnant and her husband dies cannot go back to her father's home and eat truma, then I know, of course, that what? Once she has a baby, even a one-day-old baby, she can't eat truma either. To which the Gemara says, this is incredible. Well, we're talking about a Kohen who has two wives. Strike one. Right? Kohen who has two wives. We'll say this is fascinating. Listen to this. Achas grusha ve'achas she'ina grusha. They both say one of them is a divorcee whom he married illegally. Right? He married illegally. And one of them is a kosher. Now, both remember again, we paskin halacha l'maisa, not like Rabbi Akiva, right? Rabbi Akiva this is incredible. Rabbi Akiva is the most machmir in this case. Rabbi Akiva says that kiddushin einam tovsin b'chayvei lavin. That ultimately, again, kiddushin does not take effect in prohibited marriages. We don't pass it that way. The only time we say that kiddushin doesn't take effect is in our rayos, right? If you're mekadesh your sister, that doesn't work. You're mekadesh one of that does. There's no kiddushin. But if you mekadesh someone who is usher to you because of a love, then ultimately, again, that kiddushin does work. So a kohen is not permitted to marry a grusha. And every moment that a kohen is married to a grusha, he's living in a state of isser. Nevertheless, the marriage itself still works. So, for example, if this grusha were to commit adultery, she would be an eshes ish who committed adultery and be liable to a death penalty for that. So the man who committed adultery would be liable to a death penalty for that. So, listen to this. Case over here is the kohen who married two women. One was a grusha, and one was a kshera. And watch this. V'yesh lo banim mishe'ena grusha, v'yesh lo ben yom echa min agrusha. Listen to this case. He has sons from the grusha, from the ena grusha. So from the legitimate marriage, he has kids, however many kids, it doesn't matter, right? There are many sons. V'yesh lo ben yom echa min agrusha. And watch this. He has one son from the grusha who happens to be a day old on the day that the Kohen died. So, right? So Mazel Tov, that morning, the Kohen and his grusha wife have a son. That afternoon, the Kohen dies. Now watch this. The posel me'av de aviv me'le'echo b'truma. Now both say in a case like this, while the estate, so to speak, I guess what we'll call is like in probate, right? Before the estate has been divided, none of the servants of the deceased Kohen can eat truma. Now, say, now watch this. Well, this is actually quite fascinating. So remember again, the halacha is anyone who's a member of the household of the Kohen is permitted to eat truma, even his servants. So, and we'll say, and that is true. Again, but what's the problem over here? The problem over here is that one of the Kohen's inheritors is what's called what? A chalal, right? A disqualified Kohen, right? Not even a disqualified Kohen. He's not a Kohen. He's a chalal. So what's the problem? The problem is before the estate is divided up, the chalal owns, the way inheritance works, Rabbi say, is that when the father dies, all of the sons own everything, right? It's only then once the estate is, right? There's a whole machlokes about this, how exactly estate division works. But one thing is clear, before the estate is divided, everyone owns everything. Which means what? That you have chalal ownership in a little piece of every single eved. Chalal ownership prevents what? Prevents ultimately again the avodim from going ahead and eating truma. So we'll say this is wild. So the Gemara suggests that this is the case of the Mishnah. What's the case of the one-day-old baby who prevents ultimately again truma consumption? Say we thought it was talking about again the Bas Kohen whose Yisrael husband dies. No, that's an obvious case because even if she's pregnant, she can't go ahead and eat truma anymore. So what's the case? The case is where ultimately, again, the Kohen has a one-day-old baby from his grusha, illegal wife. The existence of that one-day-old baby will prevent all of the avodim from eating truma. Ultimately, again, because of the quasi-halal ownership in each of those avodim. Incredible. Ulafukin Rabbi Yossi. And I will say this comes to us with Rabbi Yossi, who holds the Amar Ubar Nami Posel. I will say Rabbi Yossi holds that even the Ubar himself, even the existence of the Ubar, I will say this is part of a larger discussion. Ultimately, again, where Rabbi Yossi holds that halacha l'maisa, the Uber already has certain rights in utero. So the Mishnah is coming to go ahead and exclude that position that an Uber has no impact. For example, if the Kohen were to die, and ultimately again his grusha wife were pregnant, then what Rabbi say? What would be the status of the avadim? They can eat truma. Why? because they're going to be inherited by the legal sons, by the kosher sons, right? The uber of the grusha has no impact. So to exclude the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, the uber nami posel kamash ulan ben yom echad in uber lo. Comes teaching also ultimately again that only a one-day-old baby has the ability to passel the kohanim, to passel the avodim from eating truma, but ultimately an uber would not. Incredible. Nochel umanchil. Shabbos he has the ability, the uber, right? Sorry, not the uber. The one-day-old baby has the ability to what? To inherit and to bequeath. Nochel miman. Shabbos, who does he have the ability to inherit from? So me'aviv. He has the ability to inherit from his father. Umanchil laman. And who does he have the ability to bequeath to? Le'echav me'aviv. To his paternal brothers. So the Gemara says, I don't understand. To his paternal brothers, I by me avua liarsi, vi by me liarsi. Well, so the truth is for the paternal brothers, it's really just a question of semantics. In other words, remember, it's true the one-day-old baby has the ability to inherit from his father, and his ability to bequeath to his brothers would be what kind of case? Where the father dies, right? And let's say the baby is born, right? The baby boy is born Friday morning, father dies Friday afternoon. So we'll say, so what happens? That means that's what? That the baby gets a share of the inheritance. Let's say the baby dies Friday night. So we'll say, so what happens? So what happens to the baby's portion of the inheritance? What happens? It's divided up amongst the brothers, the paternal brothers. So the Gemara says, so really the brothers, in this case, the brothers are going to get the share regardless. Meaning if the one-day-old baby dies, Lemais again, so whether they're going to get the share directly from the father or they're going to get the share from the brother, either way they're getting the same estate. To which the Gemara says, you're right. Amar Rav Sheshes, we're looking for a more novel case. Amar Rav Sheshes, benochel benichseaim lahanchil laachiv minaav. So I'll say, this is incredible. What happens if the one-day-old baby is the only heir of his mother? So I'll say, so now listen to the following case. Sahaloch lamaisa, if the mother gives birth, and let's say again, right after she gives birth, she passes away. Right, and that baby is the relative of the mother. So what happens? Let's say there's no father in the father has already passed away. So let's say, so what happens? That baby totally inherits the mother. If that baby subsequently dies, then ultimately again, where does that property go? Well, if there are paternal brothers, then ultimately again, the paternal brothers will inherit the estate of the one-day-old deceased baby. Even though, where does that estate come from? That estate comes from the mother of the one-day-old baby, who may or may not be is not. That's the way this case works. Is not the mother of the paternal brothers. Okay, good. Says the Gemara. We're just looking for a more complicated case. So says the Gemara. We were successful in that. So says the Gemara as follows: V'dafka ben yom echad. And I will say the only way this works is if the baby is 1 day old. It's only a 1 day old baby who has the capacity to inherit and to bequeath. About uber lo. But I will say alocha l'maisun uber does not have the ability to go ahead and inherit the mother. My time, why is that? Because if the mother dies, the uber dies first. In other words, even if you want to say that the uber has its own identity, right? So the Gemara is presupposing that when ultimately again the mother dies, the uber dies first. So the Gemara says, "Ve'ein haben yoresh asimo bekever." This is actually very interesting. And ultimately, again, one thing is clear, which is a son does not have the ability to inherit his mother from the grave. Which means, both say, inheritance is a din in the living, right? So remember again, a son cannot posthumously go ahead and inherit his mother. So listen to this, both say, "Lahanchil la'achiv mina'av." Ini, is that true? So we'll say, the Gemara is asking over here, is that true that if a woman is pregnant and ultimately again she dies, that the uber dies before her? Is that true? V'hahava uvda. There was an episode like this. What happened where a pregnant woman passed away. Upirches ad tlasa pirchuse. And we saw the fetus moving inside of her. Right, as we saw the baby kicking or moving. Three tlasa pirchuse means 3 movements. So I'll say that sounds like what? That sounds like even after the mother dies, the uber could still be alive. Amar Marbrei Ravashi, midi dehavi azanav halta demifarcheses. It's no different than cutting off the tail of the lizard, where even if you cut off the tail of the lizard, what happens? Right? It moves around even after it's detached from the lizard. So both say, so again, example, this is what Chazal understood of medicine. Again, this is just rooted in what they thought at those times. So their assumption was that if the mother dies, the fetus definitely predeceases the mother. Okay, and they're attributing any movement of the fetus after the mother to just some type of reflexive movement, not indicative of life. So the Gemara says, Amar Rashi, Mar Bereid Rav Yosef Mishmei de Rava Amar Lomar Shememait Bechelik Bechora. So I will say what this means over here is as follows: that the existence of the one-day uber has the ability to diminish the shear of the bechora, right? The amount of the firstborn's inheritance. V'amar Bereid Rav Yosef Mishmei de Rava Ben Shenolad Achar Misas Ha'av, if a son is born after the father passed away, Eino memait bechelek bechora. That son ultimately again does not diminish the portion of the firstborn. So I'll say what it's saying is like this: on a very simple level, the existence of a one-day-old baby makes him a bona fide inheritor. That's really what it's saying. Therefore, the Bechar's Pishnayim is going to be less, ultimately, again, because of the existence of this one-day-old brother. My time, what's the reason for that? So we'll say, I'm sorry, because this supports the idea that Ben Shenolad Acher Misasav. So we'll say, it's very interesting halacha. Let's say again, Reuven passes away, and Reuven leaves behind, 4 sons and a pregnant wife. And after Reuven passes away, what happens? Before the estate is divided up, his wife gives birth. I might have thought that maybe halacha l'maisa, that son, because the estate has not yet been divided up, that son should have a portion in the inheritance. Kamashalan, that's not the case. Kamashalan, that if the son was not alive at the time that the father was alive, that son does not participate in the inheritance. My taima, what's the reason? The yoldu lo ba'inan. Because it will say, what does it say by inheritance? The yoldulo. Yoldulo means it was born to him. Meaning that what? That in order for the child to participate in the inheritance division, he must have been born to the father while the father was still alive. Besura masnuhachi, bepumpadisa masnuhachi. So we'll say this was the version in Surah. Pumpadisa had a little bit of a different version. Amar marbreid Rav Yosef, Mishmei de Rava, bechar shenolat la'acher misas aviv, eino notel pishnayim. But say, listen to this. If you have a Bechar who was born after the death of the father, that Bechar does not get a double portion. My time, what's the reason? Yakir ba'inan v'haleka. Because I will say the lashon that the Torah uses is yakir. The father shall recognize the first one. So we'll say it's interesting enough. This is the meaning of Parshas Kiseitze, right? When it's talking about 2 sons, right? The ben ahuva, the ben asnua. The bechar is the ben asnua to the wife that he doesn't like. The pasuk never says yakir. A father must recognize the firstborn as the firstborn, even if it's not from his favorite wife. The Gemara is expanding that drasha to mean that what? In order for a Bechar to be a Bechar, what has to happen? Ultimately, the father has to recognize him. Yakir. Yakir means what? He must be born at the time that the father was alive. V'haleka, v'hilchasa, kichalhani lishni demarbrit Rav Yosef mishmei de Rava. And I will say, indeed, the halacha follows all of these statements. So we'll say, number 1, that halacha l'maisa again, that a one-day-old baby participates in the bechora. Number 2, that a bechar that is born, or I should say, a son that is born after the father passes away does not participate in property division of the estate, does not participate in inheritance. And number 3, that halacha l'maisa, a bechar that is born after the death of the father does not get pi shnayim. Good about to finish off the sugya, v'hargo chayiv. So what's is also quite dramatic. If you kill a one-day-old baby, you are chayiv misa. You're chayiv misa. So I will say, by the way, this is also very important because remember, what else does this mean? Remember, at what point in time is the baby considered to be a one-day-old baby? At what point? Right? So remember again, the moment that the forehead comes out, which I will say is very important contemporarily as well, right? In the sugya of partial birth abortions, things like that. Meaning again, it's ritzicha mamish. It's meaning even though we spoke about abortion on Shavuos, and even though again there are some dramatically dramatic ideas in halacha in terms of permitting certain things, but one thing is clear: once a baby's born, it's born. In other words, that then there's no longer any kind of discussion, right? That's what the Mishnah is saying. It's ritzicha. It's mamish, no different than killing a 55-year-old person than to go ahead. So why? Why is that? So it says the Gemara v'hargo chayiv dichsiv v'ish ki yakeh kol nefesh. Mika makam. Because I will say the lashon that the Torah uses when it comes to Ritzicha is ish kiyaka kol nefesh. If you will kill anyone. Kol nefesh. And kol nefesh comes to include what? Even the one-day-old baby. Mika makam comes to include everyone. V'hari hula aviv uli imo l'chol krovav ki chasan shalem. So I will say this last statement of the Mishnah is very strange. Right? What does it mean? And he is like to his father and to his mother, like a chasan, right? Like a complete chasan. Says Rabbi says incredible. What exactly is the ramification of that statement? To which the Gemara Samar Papa le'inyan avelos. Rabbi says an incredible idea that if a one-day-old baby dies, so ultimately again his parents and his family mourn him as if he was 20 years old. In other words, the kichasan shalim, right? The halachas of avelos apply completely, ultimately, again, even to a one-day-old baby. So, Kiman, whose opinion does this reflect? To lo Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. This is not like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. Why? The Amar kol shesha shloshim yom ba'adam eino nefel. Halosha safek havi. So, what Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, that halacha l'maisa, if a baby is not considered to be viable until 30 days. Until 30 days. Once the 30-day mark has passed, then ultimately, again, the baby is considered viable. Now, I want to be clear. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel will therefore say that halacha l'maisa, a baby that is within 30 days that dies, you do not mourn. Meaning, when I say you don't mourn, you understand? Meaning we don't mourn halachically, right, for that baby. There is no obligation of avelos for that baby. Why? Because within 30 days, it is not yet viable. Now, I just want to be clear. Even if Shimon Gamliel would agree that's what? Then what's the halacha if you kill that baby? Right? It's still ritzicha. Why Rabbi say it's no different than if somebody is, let's say, a goses. Let's say someone is dying. And you know what? You go ahead, mamish, they're gasping their last breaths, and you just say, no, I'm going to put him out of his misery. And you put a pillow over his face. We'll say, what's the halacha? You're a murderer. Anything you do, meaning even if you hasten the death of someone who is definitely going to die, right? So going ahead and shortening life in any way is ritzicha. It's very important. This is also dramatically important for end-of-life decisions. Anything you do that actively shortens life is murder, is ritzicha. So I will say, so therefore again, so even if Shimon Gamliel would say that if you go ahead and you kill this baby, right, within 30 days, of course that's ritzicha. What he's saying is, hilchos avelos, it applies to a viable life, right? A viable baby. Within 30 days, it's not clear that it's viable. Only once it passes the 30-day mark is it clear that it's viable. So what does Rabbi Shimon do with the Mishnah? Because the Mishnah seems to indicate that what? That halacha l'maisa, even a one-day-old baby you mourn for. To which the Gemara says, "Hachamayaskinon tekim leishakalu chadashav." I will say, what's the case here? Where we know for sure the baby was a full-term baby. So I'll say it's a very interesting halacha that's coming out over here, which is, if you were to know with absolute certainty that the baby was a full-term baby, then even at 1 day old it's viable, and therefore even at 1 day old, if it were to die, you would mourn it like a regular avelos. The challenge, so therefore that's what the Mishnah is saying. The Mishnah is talking about a baby that we know was a complete full-term baby. Therefore, halacha l'maisa, even if it dies at 1 day old, you mourn it. Rav Shimon Gamliel is talking about a baby where what? Where halacha l'maisa, we're not sure if it was a full-term baby or not. Therefore, what? If it passes the 30-day mark, it's viable and you mourn it. If it doesn't pass the 30-day mark, then it's not or then it's a suffix if it's viable, and ultimately you don't want it. So this goes back to the idea that, remember again, whenever you have a suffix in avelus, you always go lekula. We always resolve it leniently. So if the baby dies within 30 days, and I don't know if it was a full-term pregnancy or not, we don't want to be rosa. It's just halacha l'maisa. How do we pass it in this situation? So I will say the way we pass contemporarily is there is no hilchos avelos for a baby that dies within 30 days, because we treat such a baby like that as a suffix nefel. Right? We're just not sure what the status of the baby is. Therefore, halacha l'maisa, if it passes away within 30 days, there's no formal obligation for avelos. After 30 days, ultimately, again, is when there is an obligation for avelos. All right, we'll stop over here at the Mishnah. I'll record the Parshat Amir Hashem after davening. Shkoyach.